How did I first become interested in aviation? So probably like most young kids, I was always fascinated with airplanes and watching them flying around. But started getting, I think, particularly interested in it when I was in high school, and then just started college. Actually, was working full time and spent afternoons when I was or evenings when I was taking classes, working full time, but would go up to Sky Park Airport in Wadsworth and sit up on their deck and watch the airplanes come and go, and was really intrigued with it and thought it'd be really cool. And I guess the real thing that gripped me about flying then was we were introduced to some neighbors of ours shortly after we moved in. And I came home from work one evening, and Gary and Cheryl were there, introduced themselves, and after about 20-30 minutes, Gary looked at me and asked me if I would like to go flying. He apparently was a pilot, or obviously was a pilot, and he had a plane reserved for that evening, so we went up, and that was the bug. I mean, we came back, and I remember walking in the house and telling her she probably made a mistake letting me go flying, because I was hooked. So that's kind of where I got started. My plan was, as soon as I graduated and we were in a financial position that to allow me to do it, that I would start taking lessons. It's not cheap to get your license. You've got to rent an airplane and pay for the fuel and everything. Like I said, you got to work around the financial piece of it and what other things are going on in your life and family. So establish the goal to do it, and then set some priorities and develop a plan. You can plan, but you have to execute it. So, put the plan in motion and work through your options and obstacles, and if you do that, you can achieve it. How does flying make me feel? For me, it's a real stress relief. I mean, I love the freedom of being able to go places that you couldn't otherwise go. I mean, the ability to fly shrinks the world. It makes it smaller. I mean, we can fly places in a couple hours it would take us, a day to drive to. And then just the feeling of being in the air and having control of the airplane, and the views and the beauty of it, just it's hard to describe. For me, it's always been strictly pleasure, my own enjoyment of flying. I was always fearful that if I pursued aviation as a career, that it would just turn into a job. That may or may not have been the case, but for me, it's always been pleasure. I mean, we've taken a number of pretty cool trips in it, and often we just we'll fly and leave Ashland here and fly up to Port Clinton or down to New Philly, or we've flown to Indianapolis a number of times, and we can make those flights pretty quickly and just have a lot of fun. It's a great way to travel. When our girls were just little, Emily was probably 3.5, and Lydia was 1.5 years. 1994, we had just bought our first airplane, a Piper Cherokee 140, and we lived on the East Coast, and we planned a flight to Colorado Springs, and we took off out of a little grass strip in Smyrna, Delaware, and flew back to Ohio on a Friday night after work, and then spent the next 2 days then traveling to Colorado Springs. So we made like 3-hour hops. We'd fly for 3 hours, and then we landed in some really cool places. A lot of great memories of kind of off the beaten path airports, and neat experiences going for lunch, and traveling around those areas, and then coming back and flying some more. Total flight time for us was 16 hours going out and about 13 hours coming back. So we spent a lot of time in the airplane, saw a lot of just absolutely beautiful scenery, parts of the country, and from a perspective that most people don't get to experience. I think from the perspective of a small plane like this, I mean, probably most people have been in an airliner and you see the world from 20, 30,000 feet in the air. Flying in a small airplane like we do, you certainly get a different perspective of your surroundings. like I said earlier, it's a super neat feeling to be in the air and to be in a small airplane, and just the perspective that you have from that vantage point. I think is just something that's really cool. I never get tired of it. I think if someone's interested in pursuing aviation as a hobby or a career, I think going through the process, it drives a lot of discipline as far as the effort that goes into, learning all the regulations and the airplane systems and operation. It gives you something that you can focus on that's very unique. I don't know what the statistics are, but I know that if you look at the general population, the number of people who actually fly is a very, very small percentage. And it's I'll say a very unique group of folks who aspire to do that, and a very supportive and neat culture. You have a lot of people who are, I think, very like-minded when it comes to flying. They put a great deal of effort into their training and their proficiency in aircraft. Great support network. I mean, it's rare to go to a small airport and walk in and not see 3 or 4 pilots sitting around, doing, as we call it, hangar flying, talking about experiences, different aspects of the, I'll say, the profession or the hobby that's common to them. So it's just a really close-knit, supportive group.